Hello, tech learners. Welcome back to the Force Tech, your go-to destination for the mastering data analytics, SQL, Python, Power BI, and everything in between. So, today's topic is something everyone must, work with database, and they must understand this before, working with the databases. So, which is handling null values in SQL. Nulls are actually sneaky. They can, mess up your queries, give incorrect totals, and even mislead your data-driven decisions if not handled properly. So in this video, I'll walk you through what null really means in SQL, why it's different from an empty string or zero, or functionality like COALESCE and if null, if not null, how null impact aggregation and sorting, and finally best practices to deal them like a pro. And hey, if you are preparing for interviews or building, a real life or real world dashboards, mastering the concept of is non-negotiable. So stick around till the end because I will be sharing, everything from the scratch by like how to use and how to handle the null values. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button, smash that like button, and ring the bell for more SQL goodness. So now let's dive into the our presentation. So as you can see here, yes. So before going into that, let's understand a little bit about the null. So what null actually means. So handling null values. So null in SQL represents a missing or unidentified value. It is used to indicate that no data exists in a particular cell. It's not like a zero or a string because there is something, right? But null basically means we missed a value. Like we for example, I don't know what to write in that particular rows. So I will just leave it as it is. It means null value. There is nothing available out there. But it's there is a catch behind that, like null is not, as I told, it's not same as empty string. So null is, so you can just tell null is not as empty string you can denote as like this or like this, right? So it's not same as empty string, neither as zero. So uh, it cannot be zero, right? Zero is different from null. Zero means something there, right? Some values is there which is zero, right? So each of those represents something intentional, right? Because this zero or string, if you have written zero or string, right, it means something intentionally you have given there, right? But null means the absence of any value. Null means absence of any value. Null means absence of any value. Null means there is no value. The value is absent, and it is not done intentionally. You might have missed, or you might have thought, you don't know what to write, so you just have left as it is, right? So you know that how we should use and why we should use, because it makes a difference when you are filtering or performing calculations. So if you don't count the null values, if you don't understand the concept of null values, it will give you a different result. Your approximate will become wrong, or you might go wrong in calculations like mean, median, or something like that, right? So that's the reason why we handle null values, how we should understand the concepts of null in SQL, because it is very important in data cleaning process. So now again, let's understand why nulls actually matters. So improperly handling nulls can skew our aggregate results, like some average count, or as I already mentioned, right, it might give different result. It will also cause logical error in if statement, like if you are using if statement, or if you are using some conditional or some case related, like for example you want to replace something with something, right? The case when if case when this particular number is greater than 10 or something, then again it will create problem, because it will happen like that, right? So importantly, handling nulls can be is very important. You should handle it with very good cause and very good efficient way. And it will, if you don't do that, as I told, like it will again return unexpected result in join and filter as well. So that's the reason. There are so many plenty of other reasons as well why handling nulls matters. So yes, now we can jump to, yes, as we understood, null represents a missing, as you can see, missing or unrelated values in SQL. Okay, cool. So this is why null is important, right? And yeah, okay. So okay, 1 second. Okay, okay, cool. So this is all about that, and now let's understand the very important function, which is COALESCE function. So what COALESCE function is all about? Let's understand a little bit about that. The COALESCE function basically, it returns the first non-null value from the provided expressions. So as you can see on your screen, it returns the first non-null values from the provided expression. Whatever expressions you are providing to it, it will return the first non-null values. So as you can see on your screen. So how, let's understand with an example. So basic syntax they are given, right? For example, let's say you have written coalesce you have written, okay, spelling is correct, right? For example, val1, val2, up to val n you are given, right? So it will return the first non-null value. So what it will return? Let's say one more, let's take one example. This is a syntax you can use, and I will give you one example to understand more about that. So for example, let's say you want to display the first name. For example, we don't have any first name is missing, right? So what we can do, we want to replace it with some other name, right? So we can do something like that. Let's say, for example, we'll select the and then what we can write, let's say the column name is first name, and we want to replace it with let's say forge. Okay, I mean, sorry. Okay, so what we have given first name column, and wherever it is missing, it will replace with forge, right? As uh, let's say display name will give it column name, and then we can give from, let's say the table name is users. So what it will do, what this particular thing will do here, it will replace the first name as forge. I mean, wherever the value is null, it will replace the first name as forge. It will replace with forge, and the column name will be as display name. So the result will be here, if display name is there, so in the row, the particular where the missing first null values are there, it will write forge, right? So this is how it actually works, and you can use coalesce in select statements, update as well. Along with select, you can even use an update, and even inside case when logic is there. For example, you are building some logic and using case statement, so you can use coalesce there as well. So now let's understand more about that. Yes, a commonly used in select statement, but you can use in update as well. If null functions, we can understand a little bit. So if null, as you can see, they have written over here, right? That it is shorthand for replacing null values with an alternative value. Like you'll give case no if okay, for example, if value is equal to null, so you'll give something, right? Or else end. So this is how we used to check for the null. And if you want to go syntax that I've given over here is null expression and default value. Whatever default value you want to give, for example, let's say we'll understand with the help of an example how it works actually. So let's say we are selecting an element, select if null age 0. What does it mean? Age is a column name here, and 0 is if the value is null in that particular column. Wherever the value is null, it will replace it with 0. It means that. So here if null is work in that way. From, let's say our table name is customer table, so customers. So what it will do, it will checks for if age is null, and if the age is null, then it will replace it with 0. For example, in that column, particular the entire column, it will go and check, okay, if age is 0 in any place, then okay, it will replace it with 0. So this is how this if null function works, right? And syntax, as we already use if null can employ, yeah. So we have already understood with the help of example how if null actually works. While Qualys is works across SQL engines, if null is more limited to primarily MySQL, SQLite, all these things. But Qualys works across SQL engines, entire SQL engines. Qualys will work, but this if null is limited to only MySQL, SQLite. So always we should choose the right one based on our platform. So if you want to be on safer end, you can always go with coalesce instead of if null because if null is limited to some particular servers that I mentioned, MySQL and SQL server. So if you have MySQL server or if you are working on SQL server, then you can use if null, and because yeah, and then you can directly use that. Okay, select if null column 0. I mean, if this particular column is having this any null values, it will replace it with 0. So this is how you can work with if null. And now let's move it to, yes. Yeah. So let's understand aggregating and sorting functions as well with nulls, how we can do. And nulls behave, differently if you do aggregation or sorting. So during aggregation or sorting, null will behave differently. Aggregation functions like sum, average. Let me write over here. Some, we have avg function, right, in SQL. What and all count we have, right? We do have the other functions also, right? Count, avg, sum, and yeah. So let's understand what it actually means. Like for example, so average of salary only calculates average from non-null entries, which might not reflect true totals, right? If nulls were intended as 0. So okay, for example, let's say if the value is 0 instead of null it is value 0, then let's say some value is 5 plus 4 plus 0 plus 1, then how much average will be? 9 plus 1, 10 by 4. Average is 2.5, right? But if you ignore this and put it as null value, then how much average is coming? 10 by 3. If you go in decimal, it will be 3.3 something, right? So here what's the difference arises, right? So if you won't keep the proper values, for example, if it is a null value and you are just ignoring it, like how I told, right? When you order by a column, nulls, they may appear or they might change the values, right? So you have to calculate, for example, average of salary. If you do, as I told, average, right? So what it will do, average of salary will calculate average from non-null entries. This is the non-null entries, right? 5 I did here, right? 5 plus 4 plus 1, this is different and this is different, right? It will ignore it. It will only count the non-null entries. It will not count if you have null values, it won't count it, right? So, and it might reflect the true total, but if nulls were intended as 0, so if you count it as 0, it will again be a different number, right? So this is how it works. And in terms of sorting, when you order by a column with nulls, they may appear at the top or bottom of the list depending on your database engine, which database engine you are using, like MySQL, SQL Server, PostgreSQL, whatever you are using, it will depend on that. It will come on top. And let's understand with the help of one example for order by, and I will give the example over here. So let's say we are fetching our data called select name from employees, and then we can order by department. Okay, so if department has null, they will be sorted first or last. Behavior can vary between MySQL, PostgreSQL, and Oracle. So depending on an engine, on your our engine, it will differ. Result will differ. Here, what you will get: select name from employee, order by department. On the basis of department, let's say you have a department, a name or department ID, whatever it's trying to say. On the basis of that, it will order. So it will again differ from the engine to engine. So this is what it's trying to say. And best practices, they have mentioned data input validation and data values and all that. So we can yeah, we can do that as well. And also we cannot use, like one thing I would like to say, uh, like how we use in Python or programming languages, right? So we can't do that in SQL. For example, you can't write is equal to null in SQL, right? But you can rather you can just write, like for example, you can just write select. Wait, I will tell you one. Okay, I can write over here. Okay, but we can do this thing where column is equal to null. Yeah, but this way we can write. We can't write null is equal to null, right? Because in this way we are not able to understand what message you are trying to give, right? But where column is equal to num, column name can be anything. You can give any name of column: age column, course id, whatever course id, employee id, department id, manager id, whatever column you are giving, you can give it as column name where, with the help of where clause. So it is very important to understand this, especially in SQL, that what to use and when to use, and what not to use as well. So, and also I can just keep okay. And if you want to find out the column, I mean, for example, the values or the row where the particular values are null. So let's say call okay, okay, let's say, yeah, for example, you want to find the particular column where it's, so we can just use select from table name where let's say column is age. So we can just write where age is null. So if the age is not given, for example, if the age is blank, in this situation, what it will return, it will return the number of rows where the age is null. It will return everything. It will fetch all the data where the rows is null. So this was all about that, and now let's directly understand the best practices that I mentioned. But before that, let me just erase it. Yes, to make it look quite clean. Okay. Yeah, so now let's understand. So yes, so now let's understand best practices for handling null values, and like we can just data do data input, we can just try to minimize nulls at the source or doing data input validations, and we can just try to use default values in schema design, establish consistent handling values across queries. We can also use COALESCE and IFNULL wherever nulls could break logic. Educate our team. A small mistake is handling nulls can lead to incorrect dashboards and reports. So try to educate our team that how to use and how to handle the null values. How can we try to avoid making mistakes because of improper handling of null values? Because as I told, if you not putting everything properly, it might result in a different, that I gave you an example of calculating average, right? If you are ignoring the null and if you are putting some zero instead of null, so you should keep in mind that how we are calculating, what's our aim and achievement. So all these things you have to keep in mind before finding that actual values. So this is where we can just work, because the cleaner the data is, the better the insights is going to be. So we should keep in mind to clean the data, to replace it with the suitable values. Either you are doing with mean or you are doing with zero, depending on your aim and objectives, or the, I mean, whatever your going to be your kind of insights, or whatever you are going to achieve, or whatever your suggestions are. On the basis of that, you try to replace it with the suitable values. And this was all about this. And to wrap up things, we can just tell that nulls in SQL aren't just a nuisance; they are critically part of how database handle uncertainty. And understanding and managing nulls effectively will make your queries cleaner, more efficient, and more accurate. So today we cover what null is, the differences from empty strings or zeros, how to use coalesce and if null, aggregation filters and best practices. And this was all about, yeah, this much things we learned, right? So if you found this video helpful, like this video, share it with your friends or colleagues who might be interested into learning data analytics in-depth series, and subscribe to our channel Tech for full coverage of SQL, Python, Excel, and Power BI in-depth courses. And if you got any questions, drop them in the comments. I will respond to every one of you personally. And don't forget to join our communities, WhatsApp and Telegram, where we are bringing free courses and we keep providing the job updates. So yes, stay with us, and all links that I told of groups, WhatsApp, Telegram communities are given in the description. Do check it out. And you can also subscribe to our other channels for the notes, where we are continuously bringing daily job updates and resume building sessions as well. So this was all about that, and that's it. I'm wrapping up as of now, and I will see you in the next video.